Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 30, entitled Description by Lord Kapila of Adverse Fruitive Activities, text number 15. Asteva matyopanyastam grahapala ivaharan amayavya pradiptagnir alpaharolpacheshtitaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Thus he remains at home just like a pet dog and eats whatever is so negligently given to him. Afflicted with many illnesses such as dyspepsia and loss of appetite, he eats only very small morsels of food and he becomes an invalid who cannot work anymore. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Shri. Before meeting death, one is sure to become a deceased invalid, and when he is neglected by his family members, his life becomes less than a dog's because he is put into so many miserable conditions. Vedic literatures enjoin, therefore, that before the arrival of such miserable conditions, one should leave home and die without the knowledge of his family members. If a man leaves home and dies without his family's knowing, that is considered to be a glorious death. But an attached family man wants his family members to carry him in a great procession even after his death, and although he will not be able to see how the procession goes, he still desires that his body be taken gorgeously in procession. Thus he is happy without even knowing where he has to go when he leaves his body for the next life.
So we are seeing in this chapter Lord Kapila's instructions to his mother, and particularly about, in great detail, we are hearing about the miseries of old age. Generally we know birth, death, old age and disease are the miseries. But here in this chapter of the Bhagavatam, in this section of the Bhagavatam, the miseries of old age is being more explicitly, more clearly described, so that we as human beings can reflect on this and can derive great lessons from this. Similarly, there are other parts of the Bhagavatam which describes the miseries of birth. And there are other sections which talks about the miseries of death. So these are inescapable realities of life. And so it's important that we reflect on it as spiritualists. And in today's verse, Lord Kapila is saying, Aste avamatya upanyastam grihapala ivaharan. Avamatya. When a person becomes old, he is neglected by others in the family. Because he becomes dependent on others. And when somebody is very dependent on others, even though they may have some love and affection, invariably it becomes burdensome. So day after day, if this person is dependent on others for all the basic things, it becomes not very comfortable for others. This is reality. And so they keep him because he is an old man and he has brought them up. So they have some feelings. But invariably, avamatya upanyastam grihapala ivaharan. Just like very negligently, they keep some food near him and he has to accept that. And here a very strong word is used in the Bhagavatam. Grihapala iva. Grihapala is a dog, one who maintains the house, takes care of the house. So he almost gets reduced to the state of a Grihapala. And Amayavi, invariably he gets different kinds of diseases. And Apradiptagnihi, dyspepsia, indigestion, no appetite. Apradipta agnihi. Agni, there is a fire in the stomach which digests everything, but that fire has almost died down. So there is no appetite, there is no digestion. Apratiptagnihi. And so alpaharaha, he eats very little. Alpa cheshtitaha. And what activities he can do? He can't do much. His activities are also highly reduced. So this is the difficult situation. Thus he remains at home, aste, just like a pet dog, grihapala iva, and eats whatever is so negligently given to him. Avamatya upanyastam aharam. Afflicted with many illnesses, avayavi, such as dyspepsia and loss of appetite, apradiptagnihi, he eats only very small morsels of food, alpaharaha, and he becomes an invalid who cannot work anymore, alpacheshtitaha. And further, Srila Prabhupada has written very nicely how such a man lives at home, neglected by his family members, and he hopes one day when he dies, his family members will carry him in a gorgeous procession. It's very sad. Actually, it is a fact. One devotee told me that how before he became a devotee, he used to think that when I die, I should see that more number of people cry. I mean, in a good way, in the sense, he was so good, so did so much help to so many people. And so, maximum number of people should cry when I die. That's the goal of my life. And later on, of course, he became a devotee and he was looking back and seeing that how foolish these kind of desires we have in our life, people have in our life, in their lives. So, here it is said that he wants a big procession, a gorgeous procession, family members carry. Whether he is able to see any of those, experience any of those, he doesn't think. Where will he be? What procession he will be taken, depending on his work, in which place, what suffering he'll be going through. He's not considering it. He's not reflecting at all about any of those. And a very interesting value that Prabhupada mentions in the purport, this is the Vedic culture, that before the body becomes so invalid, diseased, neglected by family members, when the body is in a reasonably good condition, at that time one should leave home and go to the forest and take shelter of Hari. Vanam gato yad harim ashrayeta. So this is a value, this is a certain kind of a perspective in the Vedic literature. And then further Prabhupada has elaborated, and one should leave home and die without family members knowing. Not that he still keeps contact and then, now I'm going to die, please come quickly. The family members again come. It's a completely different kind of a perspective in Vedic culture. Because life is seen, human life especially, is seen as an opportunity for achieving eternal life. It's not just 60, 70, 80, 100 years, whatever, that we are going to live. That's not at all the perspective. Because human life gives an opportunity to understand that we are a spirit soul, we are eternal. And while I am eternal, I am confined and restricted in this bodily life. Why am I restricted like this? Why am I conditioned like this? And Vedic literatures give further knowledge and enlightenment to help us understand what is that eternal life and how to get out of this. So that becomes the focus. So, in fact, there is a very nice example that Srila Prabhupada gives. Because in this life, miseries come in our life. So how does one endure? How does one tolerate? How does one face all of these miseries? One example Prabhupada gives is, so imagine there is a person who has gone away from his family for a long time. Maybe 2-3 years he had gone away, separated from the family. And after 2 or 3 years, he's now getting an opportunity to come back to the family. And he's coming back by train or something. And it's a 2-day journey. And when he's coming back, the 2-day journey in the train, maybe he didn't get the right seat, dirty train, all dirty people around, or whatever, didn't get good food. But, Prabhupada explains, the thought of the joy of being united with the family is so strong that he is just thinking, when am I going to be with my family members? And he's so eager to be back with the family. And that joy fills those 2 days of his journey, and the miseries he goes through are actually not at all disturbing him. Recently I was preaching to somebody and I gave this example to them. And then I gave a little twist to it to make it even more, for people to understand a little bit strongly. I said, imagine here is a boy, young boy, and after a long time, he's coming back and he's going to meet his girlfriend or something, whom he loves so much. And 2 days of journey, he's absorbed in, when I'm going to be with her. And so the difficulties that he goes through in the 2 days just doesn't bother at all. When I told this to this man, he's a respected man, he immediately, about 50-year-old man, he said, yes, Swamiji, I can understand what you are saying. About 30 years back, he started recalling. And I had to travel from Dehradun to Patna, and there was no train, and 3 days I had to go, and then I was meeting, and he pointed to his wife who was there, sitting next to him. And I was engaged to her, and I was going to meet my fiancée. And with great difficulty I went this way, that way, bus and car, train and unreserved. But I didn't bother at all. I was going to meet her like that. So, actually, this example of a man returning to the family, or a young boy absorbed in the thought of meeting his girlfriend and wanting to be with her, this example that Srila Prabhupada gives has one very important element in this. That is a sense of very strong attraction for the family or for the beloved. It is that strong sense of attraction. I want to go back. I'll going back to the association of that, my family, my beloved. That actually drowns away the miseries of the journey. The same way as Prabhupada is teaching us that our life's miseries will become drowned and become insignificant, provided we have developed that kind of a attraction for the Lord and such a feeling that I want to associate with the Lord, I want to be with the Lord. That sense of attraction has to be actually aroused. Actually, that is spiritual life that the Vedic literatures talk about. Because people think spiritual life, religious life means some kind of rituals. You go on doing some rituals, do this fasting, and we are waiting when this fast will get over. You'll do something else. Not really. It's just done sort of mechanically. I don't know if you remember, I've told one story. One good donor and supporter of our temple called me one day and he said, Swamiji, we are opening a new house and my wife is saying that we should call you to come and do a puja. I said, okay. And his wife is, I could overhear his wife also speaking behind him. And then, Swamiji, my wife is asking how long the puja will be. So I said, maybe 1 hour. I said. Then immediately he said, Swamiji, 1 hour, that's too long. Can you make it short? I said, okay, we can make it short. Shall we make it half an hour? No, Swamiji, even half an hour is too long. Can you make it 15 minutes? Finally I said, okay, 15 minutes. Soon after the call, he said, Swamiji, I'll talk to you later on. Now there's India-Pakistan cricket is going on match. I'll talk more details later on, Swamiji, and put the phone down. So see the contrast here. When it comes to a spiritual or a religious program, there's no attraction at all. He wants it to be as short as possible. 1 hour, my God. Make it as short as possible. And the attraction is for some cricket match that's going on. And then, see that. So it's the attraction that drives a person. There's one great statement that Srila Prabhupada makes in a letter to one devotee. Prabhupada says the most important principle of the material world is the attraction between man and woman. And the most important principle or the dominant principle in the spiritual world is attraction between the living entity and Krishna. What is special about this statement of Srila Prabhupada is, actually what makes life interesting is that attraction. If there is no attraction, life becomes dull. So Prabhupada is teaching, Vedic literatures are offering, there is a life of attraction in the spiritual world between the living entity and Krishna. The attraction between a man and a woman in the material world is contrived. It is not real. With all the yantra and the hormones and this and that, it's contrived in this material world. Actually, it is not. There is no real attraction. It's made up like that by Maya. There's no real attraction. Whereas in the spiritual world, the dominant force that is acting everywhere in the spiritual world is dynamic, moment-to-moment attraction between the living entities and the Lord. The living entities want to serve the Lord, and please him, and the Lord wanting to serve the devotees and please them. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Krishna is also thinking how I can please the gopis, how I can please Mother Yashoda. So, the element of attraction, which is actually the spice of life, which is actually what makes life interesting, is not absent in the spiritual world. So, in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu points out that the Vedic processes that are mentioned are, it's called the sadhana. Sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi bhakti, according to the regulative principles given in the Vedic literature. That when we do that, our heart gets purified, and that original attraction the soul has for Krishna is awakened. Then the spiritual life looks completely different. This is a very, very special hope and revelation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as it is there in the Vedic literatures. So, spiritual life is not just mechanical, repetitive, mindless rituals, and you go on doing that. No. It is meant, it is required, that is very essential to control the senses, to purify the senses, to purify the consciousness. But when we do that, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, that attraction to Krishna is awakened. That is the special thing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is there in the Vedic literatures, but even the previous acharyas had not as clearly pointed out, revealed as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals. And it is said, Chaitanya Charitamrita reveals that there are certain things which are very beneficial to awaken that attraction. And one important principle that is very essential to awaken that attraction is faith in the Vaishnavas. Because that has to be given by a Vaishnava. We cannot acquire it and achieve it by our efforts. Our efforts are a qualification to receive, but you have to receive it. If it is not given, you cannot do anything about it. You have to wait and try to please a Vaishnava. So, faith, strong faith in the Vaishnava. To illustrate this, Chaitanya Charitamrita describes the example of one great devotee. His name was Kalidas. Actually, he was an elderly devotee. He was the uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami. And it is said that always he would be chanting Krishna's name. Even while doing ordinary work, doing different things, he would always be chanting Krishna's name. Another characteristic of this devotee, Kalidas, was he had great faith in the Vaishnavas. And so what he would do, he would take all kinds of eatables, gifts, and go and give it to a Vaishnava. And then after the Vaishnava accepts it, he would induce him, please take it, please eat it, honor it. And he would make him. After that, with folded hands, he would request him, can I get some remnants of the prasadam, of what you have eaten? Chaitanya Charitamrita describes food offered to Krishna, it becomes Mahaprasadam. And when that Mahaprasadam is eaten by a devotee, Vaishnava, pure devotee, and the remnants are known as Maha prasadam. So he would go to a devotee, give him all kinds of food, and then request him, please give me Maha prasadam of yours. And sometimes devotees are generally very, very humble. They would say, no, we cannot give you, we cannot, please, thank you very much, and would send him away. But he would go out and he would wait and hide. After some time, when they come and throw the food something in from their house, he would immediately go there, take that one and lick that. So much faith in the Vaishnava and so much faith in the principle of Vaishnava Uchishta. This is called Vaishnava Uchishta. Left remnants of what is left over by a pure devotee. So he would do that. And then sometimes he would go to another thing this Kalidas would do. He would go to a devotee's house, give them gifts and all that. And then when they are sending him off, he would make the devotee walk a little distance and then he would send him back. While he is walking, he would keep track of the steps and sometimes an impression is made. And then after this person is gone, he would go there, take the dust from the footmarks and apply it on his head, on his body. Vaishnava Pada Dhuli, Bhakta Pada Dhuli. So, he had immense faith in this and he would always do that. And then he came to Jagannath Puri to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's daily practice was he would go to, there was one Narsimha temple. He would go every day to that Narsimha temple. And in that, when he goes to Narsimha temple, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to chant Namaste Narsimhaya Prahlada Hladadai. The song we sing, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to sing that every day. Avakara Kamalavare, all of that. So he would sing that and then go to Jagannath temple. And then there was a place where he would wash his feet and then walk up. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had made a rule. No one should touch the water that has washed my feet. And Govinda, his assistant, Chaitanya used to have an assistant by name Govinda. He used to keep an eye on that one because it was Mahaprabhu's order. So one day when Kalidas came, he was waiting there. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Pada Jala was so special. So Govinda was pouring water. In a flick of a moment, he put his hand there and he drank it 3 times. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw, enough. Stop that. Go away. He then said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, thank you. And then he went away. But he managed to sip 3 times. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Pada Jala. So, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that Bhakta Pada Dhuli, Bhakta Pada Jala, Bhakta Bhukta Avashesha, Ina Mahabhala. These 3 things are considered to be very powerful to awaken that love of Krishna, that attraction to Krishna. Pada Dhuli, the dust from the lotus feet of a devotee. Pada Jala, water that has washed the lotus feet of a devotee. And Bhakta Bhukta Avashesha, what the remnants of the food that a devotee has eaten. These are very, very powerful. There is one very interesting pastime in Srila Prabhupada's life. Once Prabhupada was traveling in a flight from Mexico City to Caracas. That's in South America, capital of Venezuela. So Prabhupada was traveling. And Prabhupada was sitting at the window seat. Next to him was his servant. And next to him was his secretary. His servant was Shrutakirti. Next to him was Paramahamsa Swami, a sannyasi, his secretary. Actually, whenever Prabhupada traveled, they would pack some prasadam. And Prabhupada was very, very fond of Krishna prasadam. Always he would insist prasadam is carried. Even if it's a short flight or a long flight, always devotees would carry prasadam and Prabhupada would have at different times. So, here in Mexico City temple, they had made puffed rice, muri, puffed rice, and fried with the turmeric and seasoning and nice salt, and that was one of the favorite dishes of Prabhupada. Prabhupada used to like that very much. So the devotees had made that very nicely, and then after the flight took off, his servant pulled out from the bag. There was an aluminium foil. He opened it and kept it before Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada ate a few times. And then he gave it. So Prabhupada would eat little and then he would give it to the servant. And then Shrutakirti accepted that. He divided that, made it into two. And he gave one to Paramahamsa. And he was eating. So very happy. Prabhupada's Maha Prasadam. They're happy. Just then, a steward in the aircraft, it was Venezuela Airlines. So a young woman walked by and she stood next to Paramahamsa and she was staring at what they are eating, some very strange yellow puffed rice. For her it was. And very strangely, she put her hand into the little plate of Shrutakirti, took a little, put it in her mouth and looked at them and said, very tasty. And he was shocked and suddenly some hand coming and he was just recovering. And then she said, what is this? He didn't know. He said, we are vegetarians and we eat some of these kind of things. Oh, you're vegetarians, very nice. Yeah, do you want something more? And so he asked Prabhupada, you want something? She's asking. And so Prabhupada said, fruits. Oh yes, I'll get you some fruits, she said. And then again she asked, do you want anything to drink? And then he asked Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, she's asking, do you want to drink anything? And so Prabhupada said, hot milk. Prabhupada liked hot milk also. And so she said, yes, you can give hot milk. And she said, okay, I'll if there's anything more also, I'll get for you. And she went away. So Shrutakirti turned to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, look at this, what a miracle. How she got Maha Prasadam. I mean, he was trying to say that. Prabhupada said, that's the good nature of a woman. Always they are always ready, eager to do service. Actually, he was telling about the Maha Prasadam, but then Prabhupada was looking at her willingness to bring some fruits and milk and all of those kinds of wanting to do. So Prabhupada appreciated her, and then she went away and they brought the fruits and all of this happened. Then, much, 20 years later, Shrutakirti says, he was describing this story in one Prabhupada festival in Los Angeles. So after the class, one devotee walked up to him and said, Prabhu, I want to tell you one story. And he said, yes, what is the story? And then he described that how he was a South American devotee and how they would go from small town to town and they would do Harinam, they would do book distribution like that and would go house to house also and give some prasadam and books and like that. So he said, somewhere in Brazil, somewhere in a small town, outside the town, this devotee and a few other devotees were going from house to house in a truck, in a jeep, and showing books. And so one house they knocked on, and the door opened, and there was a woman there, and she saw, oh, Hare Krishnas. very surprised in a place not expected. And she said, please come in, please come in. And they walked into the house and they see in the house Prabhupada's picture, Krishna's picture, like a devotee's house. So they asked her, how did you come in touch with Krishna consciousness? And she said, I met Srila Prabhupada. I said, oh really, how was that? And then she said, I was working as a steward in Venezuela Airlines, and once I got an opportunity to serve Prabhupada, and I ate Mahaprasadam also, Mahaprasadam, and that's how it started. And then I somehow came in touch with devotees, and so on, and she has become a devotee. This is the potency of Mahaprasadam of a Vaishnava, of a pure devotee. So these are all very, very special things about Krishna consciousness. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, why it is said about these three, Pada Jala, Bhakta Pada Jala, Bhakta Pada Dhuli, Bhakta Bhukta Avashesha? It is because the background is, it is that enormous faith, that faith in the Vaishnava. Vaishnava is related to Krishna, and Krishna has given him the powers to give that attraction to him. If he gives, that attraction is awakened. That is an important principle. So, if our lives, if the miseries of our life should become drowned and become insignificant, it's very important that strong feeling for Krishna that is awakened in our heart. And we should be begging to Srila Prabhupada, begging to Krishna, begging to the holy name to awaken that. That is an important gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When that happens, all these different kinds of miseries of old age, death, it will not bother us. Vimukto amrutam ashnute. Janma mrityu jara dukkhair vimukto amrutam ashnute. One will be able to relish and taste transcendence. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.